Hello, hi everyone.
Hi everyone, I think we're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on your location. A warm welcome to everyone. My name is Messina Lorette Manilakidza, and I am a knowledge broker, programming and practice at the Knowledge Platform Security and Rule of Law. I want to welcome you all to this webinar on sustainable, inclusive, and gender-sensitive community structures in Somalia, taking place today, September 30th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. Before we get started, let's just go over some few housekeeping rules. During this webinar, we would like to have all microphones attendees muted. If you are having any technical issue during the webinar, please use the chat feature to send a message, and we will try to address your question as soon as possible. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly, but neither participants list nor the chat box are recorded. Out of respect to all in the room, would like to ask you to write your name and organization in the chat. This will, of course, not be recorded, but it will allow everyone to get a sense of who else is joining the conversation. Please be aware that during the Q&A session, if you wish to ask a question directly to the presenters, your name and voice will be recorded. However, you also have the option to just submit your written question in the chat. More instructions will be provided at the start of the Q&A session. This webinar is part of the Addressing Root Causes Global Learning online series, aiming to create connections and linkages across our projects and beyond. Just by way of introduction and to contextualize, the ARC Fund is aimed at tackling the root causes of armed conflict, instability, and irregular migration. We do have in total 19 ARC partner organizations working on 21 programs in 12 countries for a 5-year period. The Knowledge Platform, as a vital platform for the generation, sharing, and use of knowledge in the security and rule of law field, is committed to does support the grantee organizations and the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs to learn from and share programmatic knowledge and use this to improve future programming and inform policy. So the Global Learning online series, as part of which this webinar is happening, aims to create channels to engage with pertinent issues of learning and explore pathways for collaborative and creative action in learning. This webinar, as you've noticed, is co-hosted by the Knowledge Platform and Saferworld, and it features Saferworld experiences on how communities in securitized environment can implement and utilize existing capacities to respond to various security needs like sexual and gender-based violence management, conflict prevention in a gender and conflict-sensitive manner. We would like to use the next hour to practically discuss how to create or restore stable communities in highly securitized environments, as it is the case for Somalia. So basically, we would like to dive deep into how do you design, how do you implement community structures work, and discuss to what extent those community structures are able to work on addressing root causes of conflict or instability. How do we improve efficiency for that kind of work? And most importantly, how do you ensure sustainability for this kind of work? I would like now to introduce our today's speakers. We are joined this afternoon as key discussants with Diana Triminio Mora, Head of Program Support and Senior Gender Advisor at Saferworld. We are also joined by Mariam Abdi, Saferworld's Addressing Root Causes Program Manager in Somalia. We are also joined by Amina Arale, Advocacy Lead at the Somali Women Development Center, and a warm welcome to all of you. This webinar will be facilitated by Megan Price, Knowledge Platform Head of Secretariat, and myself. So without further ado, Diana, feel free to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Messina. And thank you, Megan, and the Knowledge Platform for hosting us, inviting us, and conversation. Before I go into the very few things I want to share with you today, one thing that I was going to suggest, if it's okay, is for those of you who aren't speaking, if you can turn your video off, because it helps with the bandwidth of the event, and we're having some connection problems with some of our colleagues based in Somalia. So I think that would be great. That way we can make sure that we're all be able to listen well. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. But as I said, and I was already introduced, my name is Diana Trimino, and I'm Head of Program Support and Senior Gender Advisor at Saferworld. And today, I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of what our presentation will be, both from Saferworld and SWDC's perspective, as well as share a little bit about how we ensure that we are applying a gender and conflict sensitive approach to the work that we do in Somalia, but more broadly in other securitized, fragile, or conflict affected states. There we go. So today, you can see my screen, right? Just making sure that it's all working. Great. So today we, as I said, I'll give you a brief overview of those two approaches. And then my colleague Mariam and Amina from SWDC will really take you through today's presentation and hone in a little bit around how we are trying to address root causes of conflict in Somalia, through especially a gender and conflict sensitive lens, talk you through some of the design, implementation, and impact that we've gone through in this program, some reflections around the effectiveness of some of the interventions, as well as how we think we can improve and maximize sustainability of these interventions. A lot of you may already know about Saferworld's work on conflict sensitivity. But I guess I just wanted to share a little bit around how we really see conflict analysis as a starting point of any intervention, both programming, policy, networking, any type of intervention in a fragile and conflict affected state. And we start this by conducting a participatory, layered conflict analysis at project inception that, as my colleagues will share later, informs not just the issues that we'll be working on, and what root causes of conflict we'll be trying to address, but also informs how we do this. It informs which actors we work with, and it informs the composition and ways of working of the community structures that we set in place or support in the different communities. We also regularly revisit conflict analysis and how it's going through different monitoring, evaluation, and learning mechanisms, including quarterly outcome harvesting sessions that we conduct with partners. And so it's really, I guess, an approach that is both about generating analysis at the beginning, but also about implementation, adaptability, and flexibility throughout the lifeline of a project. And I've shared here a little bit about what are the types of questions that we really seek to answer in this analysis and in how we are applying it throughout the lifeline of a project. We do this, as I said, initially ourselves with partners and community structures at the very beginning of a project like the ARC, which Mariam will tell you more about. But we also do this, or we also support external organizations, donors, international organizations, other NGOs, INGOs, and local organizations in conductive conflict sensitivity analysis and applying it. And we do this through, for example, help desks, which we participate in, as well as a specific model that we've developed, for example, in South Sudan called the Conflict Sensitive Resource Facility, which again is kind of a network of different donors and organizations coming together to really understand how to apply conflict sensitivity to their strategies, policies, practices, and programs. And throughout, I would say, the past 7 to 10 years, we've tried to really increase the work that we do on making sure that that conflict sensitive analysis that we're promoting and producing is also gender sensitive. And what we mean by this is that it really makes sure that we're understanding what are the gender dynamics of conflict in that place, that we understand not just the impact, the different impact that conflict has on men, women, girls, boys, sexual and gender minorities, but that we also understand how social norms and gender norms can fuel conflict and specific types of violence in the community, and that we're addressing these root causes at the same time towards an aspiration of really not just making sure that we're not let's say, fueling those harmful gender norms and gender inequality, but that we're actually promoting gender equality and women's participation, meaningful participation through our peace building work. And I've just put here a couple of different tools that we've developed in the last few years, including a toolkit on gender analysis of conflict, which some of you may have seen, which we produced 3 or 4 years ago. Recently, including through consultations in Somalia with women's organizations, we've also produced a toolkit to guide meaningful consultations with women in conflict-affected states. That's the one you have there called Beyond Consultations, which is available also in various languages. And finally, and before I finish, one thing that we really have invested as an organization is making sure that practitioners and other peace building actors really understand and know how to integrate gender into your traditional conflict analysis, whichever methodology it is that you're using. And one way that we've done this in the last couple of years is that we have co-developed a guide to conduct a gender-sensitive conflict analysis with a sister organization, Conciliation Resources. And we will be publishing this guide for facilitators later this year. We've done and piloted this new methodology, which is based on the CDA's systems analysis of conflict in over 12 conflict-affected states already, including Somalia, Uganda, South Sudan, and different countries in MENA, Asia, and Central Asia. So without telling you more about our global approach, I would actually like to welcome my colleague Mariam, who will take you through our ARC program with also Amina from SWDC. Amina, if you're there and you want to, if you think the connection is good enough for the video, do please feel free to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. Hi, everyone. My name is Mariam Hassan, and I work with the Somalia program, Saferworld. And just to give you a brief of this program, it's a 5-year program funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dutch, and it has started in 2017 in 3 regions of Somalia. Just go to the next slide, Diana. And we're focusing in Southwest State, in Jubaland, and also in Banaadir region. So basically, we are looking at we've designed a program that supports safety and security of the communities in these regions, whereby we are creating links between communities, the state, and also national actors. The program has 3 major outcomes, and it's designed in a way that it starts from community level structures and goes to state level, then goes to advocacy outcomes. We have 3 major partners: the Somali Women Development Center. We also work with Isha Human Rights Organization in Southwest State and Somali Women Solidarity Organization in Jubaland. We're also partnering with government ministries such as the district commissioners, the police commissioner, the Ministry of Interior, the Banaadir Regional Administration, Ministry of Land, and also other stakeholders such as Danish Refugee Council, AMISOM, UNSOM, and Conflict Dynamics. So basically, these are the key partners that we work with. And As I say, this program has 3 major outcomes. The first one is establishing community level structures, which we call community action forums in each region. So far, we have established 15 community action forums with each which has 20 memberships. So we have total of 300 community members actively involved in community level security. They normally do community-based participatory research, what we call community safety assessments, whereby evidence is generated from community level, and this informs community security response and needs. This promotes local ownership, and sometimes also gives opportunity for the community to prioritize what is really key and important for them. These community action forums are very local level, and they consist of different groups: women, men, boys, and also people from the minority groups. So it's quite inclusive structure. We support them through sub-granting, whereby they do community level projects. We also support cross-regional exchange and learning forums and dialogue, and they really help in establishing strong mechanisms for referrals and conflict mediation. So this is the first level, whereby it's very community level, and it really supports communities to connect with structures that are already existing and capacitated. The second level is strengthening dialogue between communities and authorities. And authorities basically here focuses on security providers like the police and the district administration. So what we've done is we have re-established a civilian oversight body, what we call police advisory committees. And what this body does is to do an oversight of police conducts, support for police in monitoring prison conditions, and also, linking communities and police to just establish strong trust building and community engagement between the police and communities. So we have one police advisory committees in each region, one in Southwest State, one in Jubaland, and one in Banati region, and they are working very closely with the communities and the police to really enhance community-police relationships. We also support cross-regional networks, whereby the 3 regions share experiences on key issues around policing and police work, and this is fed through by annual feedback meetings and feedback forums, whereby dialogue between the police advisory committees and federal member states are established, and supports basically policy formulation. So, and the third outcome for this program is whereby evidences from these 2 structures are used for advocacy and helps in policy dialogue between and also in federal member states through advocacy briefings with key decision makers such as the ministry officials, police commissioners, and also international actors and donors. And also with evidences from these forums, we organize roundtables to really share evidences from community perspective and from grassroots, whereby evidence from the community really helps decision makers in the African Union, in AMISOM, IGAD, UK embassies to really, give them evidences from communities that what is the priority, what is the need, and also really give them rich information from the community to help them really focus on what is Somali-led method to increase human security. So that's how the program is designed. Then if you can go to the next slide. So that's how the 3 outcomes of the program. And in terms of designing the program with conflict and gender sensitivity perspective, we have established community level structures, such as what we call CAF, Community Action Forums, and PACS, Police Advisory Committees, with clear inclusion and clear analysis to ensure that evidences from this inclusion are really giving us what is the root cause of conflict, what are the drivers of conflict, who are excluded and who are included in this kind of structures. And with this, it gives us an opportunity to identify who to work with and with which norms, practices, and who to influence in terms of laws and structures, and where are we looking at the change from this perspective. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And what we did was at first to ensure conflict sensitivity and gender mainstreaming is clear in the program. We have engaged with local authorities such as the district commissioners, the ward, and also traditional elders to ensure that there is strong relationship and partnership approvals. So when we're doing community security program, it's quite sensitive in security.
Miriam, I believe you've been muted as we're not hearing you anymore. If you could try and unmute yourself and restate what you said for the last 30 seconds.
Mariam, can you hear us?
Is she still there? I can't actually see because I'm sharing my screen.
Miriam is still in the room, but we're not able to hear her. I don't know if Amina, you might be in a position to be able to take over, or otherwise Diana.
Amina, you go ahead. I'm happy to come in as well.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amina Arale. I work with Somalia Women Development Center, SGBV. As Mariam was discussing the issue of the root causes and also the drivers of conflict in the design of the project, engaging with the community and local authorities. The project mostly, and the program was mostly focusing the root causes of the conflict. As Mariam mentioned, the community security assessment was the baseline for the project implementation. One of the findings that we received include the gap and also the poor communication between the police and the communities. Service was the problem listed in the most frequently according to the community security assessment. The CAF, the Community Action Forum, is created a space of trust and relationship building between the community and also the police, and also to create working space and partnership for their shared goal of safer communities. For example, the other issues with engaging the local authorities, mostly we provide a capacity building using the community conflict analysis and gender sensitivity for the CAF, for BAC, and as well as local authorities and also police to engage the project implementation and also the support within the process of community engagement. For example, if we go down the practical examples, the most issue that reporting in the partners that work the Community Security Assessment Project Act, based in Mogadishu, Baidawa, and also Kismayo. One of the issue was land dispute were identified as the major causes of conflict inside and between the communities. The major gender element issue was the issue relating to the gender-based violence, exclusion of women as a custom or as a traditional structure. As we know, the community structures mostly are dominated by male counterparts. This structure was developed in terms of developing a criteria of selection and also inclusivity within different community members. The mostly we focus the issue of inclusivity, especially including the women, the youth, the minorities, and also the other community. This structure was a very strong structure that mostly gives a very good, very vital work. This was make a The program was the 4th year. Since when we look back for the issue of relating to the partnership and local support within the community, there is a lot of acceptance within the community, especially the police and also the local authority and also the community. There's a big gap within the community. The project was supported to build the capacity of the community, the CAF, as well as the police and local authorities. This was created and a space to connect between the community. If we go back to the project implementation in the first year, one of the implementing areas, for example, Mogadishu, the area we are implementing the project was established existing only one police station. But after 3 years, with the engagement of the CAF, the capacity building on conflict resolution and sensitivity, now there is established almost more than 5 police posts. At the same time, there was another issue was advocating by the police, especially the gender inclusion within the police, especially for supporting the issue of sensitivity issue relating to the GBV, as well as the women in the front desks are not available. What is the major achievement we received during the capacity assessment, the capacity building, the gender sensitivity, that most of the communities were accepted the CAF as a legitimate. At the same time, the community themselves was supported within the police. Currently, there was succeeded to deploy more than 50 female police officers in frontline district, as well as investigators. This was one of the impact we've seen within the period of the 4th year. And also, hello, Mariam. And also the issue of designing and also tools, as Marian and also Diana was mentioned, that we have been using different tools in the gender sensitivity, as well as the community assessment in terms of support. The issue of CSA mostly we use as a tool to review the issue of the security issue, to review the change within the communities, as well advocating and also assisting within the period of what was happening when the first CSA was done, and then we looking back the second CSA to look back what was the change for first year. In every year we have been implementing we have been doing a CSA in different regions in Somalia based on community security and also on selection. Diane, go ahead. The next slide. Yeah, in terms of capacity building and also the on gender sensitivity and conflict analysis, the Saferworld with different they hire different knowledgeable people to train the partners on gender sensitivity and conflict analysis. This was resulting in a process of implementation of the project by creating different spaces.
Sorry, I'm back now.
Hi, Marianne.
Hi, continue, Amina.
Yeah, just continue.
Thank you. So thank you, Amina, and sorry about that, this poor network today. So in terms of still the design of the program, we've invested so much in staff capacity building and community structures capacity building on gender and conflict sensitivity, to really help us have a strong structure that really supports the program in a way that they are responsive to the needs of the community in a gender and conflict sensitive manner. And as a result of that, we have CAFs who are really community action forums who are now approaching district authorities, approaching private sector, and also religious communities to really support and influence security at community level. And I'm losing the screen. Yeah, and in terms of the selection processes, we've ensured that the process is gender sensitive, and we have 45% of the community action forums now are women. And we realize that it's not just about having membership for women, but also they are really meaningfully engaged. So in terms of the leadership of these structures, we have women who are chairpersons or co-chair in this process. And in most of the cases, they are the ones who are leading sensitive issues like GBV referrals and reporting. And we have seen their voices really getting raised at community level. Can you see your screen, Ali? Yeah, Diana, let's go to the next screen.
If you can't see it, Mariam, we're in the lessons learned slide.
Okay, yes, so in terms of the lessons learned, one of the key lessons learned over the last 3 years is that CAFs have really gained legitimacy and effectively represent the community needs and interest. And a good example will be how the CAFs are now sitting with the district authorities and traditional elders to talk about issues that are affecting the community. A good example is how issues of land is managed through referrals. Issues of GBV now have become more formalized, whereby CAFs are encouraging community members to use formal system for the survivors to have better care, better psychosocial support, access to health, and also access to justice. So we are seeing a good partnership between the communities and the CAFs in terms of GBV management. We've also seen cases where police officers and police commissioners have approached CAFs and offered office space. In Mogadishu, for example, most of the police posts and police police stations now are asking CAFs to have office within the police stations, whereby they can help them engage with community better. So that when communities come, they know the CAFs, they know the community action forums, they can share their grievances, and this demonstrates, trust and the partnership between the communities and the police. One of the key barriers we've identified at the beginning of the program is lack of trust between the community and the police. Police was viewed as militarized and really not seen as security providers. But through these engagements with communities and with CAFs, and CAFs really doing a frontline coordination and being the link between the communities and the police, this starts from both sides. And this kind of mistrust is understood because there are cases whereby Al-Shabaab have attacked police stations, have really caused a lot of, insecurity for the police force, and for the police to trust this group and allow them to have office within the police, and sometimes even give a hotline number from the police where they can call anytime, indicates that there's a clear trust and partnership between the communities and the police now in the areas we work. Another good example is whereby the police advisory committees do bi-weekly police station visits, whereby they do monitoring of prison conditions, look at human rights issues, and also give feedback to actors such as Saferworld, and also to the ministry to issues within the police. For example, one of the key issues they identified was in the 3 locations, lack of female police officers at the front desk, and this has been a barrier to access for many women to report GBV cases. As a result of that, with this evidence and feedback from the police advisory committees to the community and also to the CAFs, the police commissioner in Mogadishu, General Zakia, was influenced through this kind of feedback, and she deployed 50 female police officers in Mogadishu, for example, to be gender desk officers and investigators on GBV matters, and we've helped them train them on human rights, on referral, and also on basic record keeping for evidence preservation. Diana, if you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So in terms of sustainability, how does sustainability look like for this work? We normally do annual by annual outcome harvesting, and we've realized that community needs, actor and power analysis really helps us maximize impact by complementing initiatives in the same area. A good example will be how community safety assessment is used to prioritize community needs, how this influences the community action forums action plans, and really how this evidence is used for advocacy to give feedback to decision makers in a conflict and gender sensitive manner. It's also helped us really adapt to the context, and maybe Amina will explain more to us, especially on how we did adaptation in this program in response to the COVID situation.
Thank you, Marian. As you know, the COVID-19 was a challenge to human being as well as social institution as well as the economic. As we live in Somalia, where the risk of COVID-19 is very high because of low infrastructure, we developed a remote management plan for the activities. For example, the ACT project is not only supporting the community security, but it has been working beyond the supporting, for example, referral mechanisms for GBV, especially refer to one-stop centers to provide or receive basic, to receive within 72 hours the medicine, which is called the bed kit, as well provision of psychosocial support, the medical, and also the legal support. All this was we developed a remote management plan. At the same time, the one centers have been working. This was we developed different methodologies to work the activities. Since the preventive measures have been applied within the SWDC staff, the community, the CAF, and the BAC. As you know, the Chief Justice was closed by the courts. All the courts were closed. The central bureaus were closed. All of them was, and also the criminal cases during the pandemic period, especially before, during the lockdown, was the criminal case was very high. The reported case of sexual violence was very high. At the same time, the survivors of sexual violence, especially, they need special care and treatment. And the other issue we noted is the high rate of domestic violence due to the low economic within the family. At the same time, it was reported high cases of violence within the family, especially the child abuse cases. As an organization, we developed different activities. As soon as there was existing a hotline system which would have been working within 72 hours, 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, for provision of providing the legal support, referral mechanism to nearest services, whether in Mogadishu, Baydabo, and also other regions which was existing, the support of GBV. At the same time, we developed information education material, and especially in the local language. Mostly the CAF and the other members of the staff were distributed to the community, especially in the IDPs, and also where the most vulnerable community are resident. And also we developed the radio messages through the Somali community are very active in the listening. We developed a radio message to release the information of how COVID-19 going preventing, and also the other services that have been provided in different organizations. And since the first, it was an emergency for the issue of COVID-19. We distribute different materials such as hand washing materials and also other materials to support with the most vulnerable communities in Mogadishu. The other issue of issues relating to the security, we supported since the lawyers are supporting and also paralegals are supporting to the police stations. We think for 48 hours, the detainees cannot be held in the police station. It was requested either to refer to central prison or to release the detainees. The lawyers are supporting the police and also the guard. They are supporting the police officers in terms of solving the case, whether it's criminal, the rate of criminal, how is it a big criminal case or is a minor criminal cases. Mostly the minor criminal cases are solving through the informal justice system according to the law. And also the other the major criminal cases refer to the central prison. Sometimes the chief justice together with municipal society sit together and also develop remote management, especially online court hearings in some of they develop in some districts in many areas in Mogadishu, for example. This was the major issue with supporting within the community, especially strengthening of community security and safety and also access to justice within the community. Hi, Marian.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically the adaptation within the program is in a way that despite the context changes, there's opportunity to really adapt and really respond to security needs within the community. And in terms of networking and advocacy for systemic change at community, state, and national level, this program brings in local analysis and advocacy into federal, state, and state level decision making. And a good example is how we have really helped supported community action forums gather evidence on conflict drivers in Southwest State and in Kismayo, whereby we identified land as a key driver of conflict. And as a result, we have helped, draft and enact a law on land rights with the support of the Ministry of Land in Southwest State, and it's now pending approval in Parliament. And in Kismayo, we have helped in developing land committee, whereby this committee mediates conflicts within the community just to prevent escalation of conflicts. The conflict have not stopped, but really land conflict has not stopped, but this kind of committee helps the community to have an opportunity and an avenue whereby they can refer their cases while verification and court cases are proceeding. So really community level structures have helped refer cases and amplify key issues within the community, such as drivers of conflict and how to mediate this conflict at the community level and also at the state and national level. If you go to the next slide, Diana.
Just a brief interjection. We do want to have time for a Q&A, and we are running close to our hour. So if I could ask Diana and Amina and Miriam to work towards the closure of your presentation, so we have enough time for engaging the audience.
Okay.
Mariam, is Amina supposed to speak to this?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So basically, as I said, we're using this analysis to really influence decision makers at both national level and also at the state level, and bringing this kind of discussion to international level. For example, Amina will explain the advocacy we did at the UN Commission in New York. Amina, if you can explain what was the issue and how the community level evidence have supported us.
Thank you, Marian. Since the time is against us, the issue of advocacy was based since we have been working with the issue of community security and safety. In addition, beyond the community security assessment engagement, we have been working on supporting the different structure issue in terms of behavior change and also policy and also law advocacy. We have been advocating for access to justice for women and girls in terms of support. and also women's participation in peace and security. We have been advocating for the issue engagement of women in the security sector to engage more in terms of development of National Action Plan of 1325, which is under process currently in Somalia. And also advocating the 30% quota of women's representation, which is now on a process since the model of the election, which is 2021, which is facing us is changing a lot in different way. Although it was supposed to have been one person, one vote, but now there was a different model was developed, which is the same of the previous one of 2016, which is a small electoral commissions will be selecting together with civil society and also elders to selecting the candidates and also the selection of the voters. All these issues have been advocating in a wide range, but still we have been facing different challenges and also in different risks. But the most the succeeding one is developing and also at community level, regional level, and national level. And also we presented these issues to Security Council in last year, 2019, October. This was the major issue we have been discussing to support the different issues on women's rights and also community security and safety. If I continue, the most challenges now currently we have been facing, since we have been advocating the sexual offense bill, is still draft almost more than 4 years drafting, and still the same, although this time is the hardest time we have been facing as a civil society organization is working in Somalia. And also they have been using and also changing different techniques, especially at the current period of election. They use it to be this bill, which is against Islam, so that there is a lot of tensions are now going on. But as a civil society, for the SWDC, have been leading the advocacy of sexual offense bill. Still, we are facing good development within the community, especially religious leaders and also the highest level of the government.
Thank you, Amina. Just to add on, one challenge also from the experiences we had for the last 3 years is the link between justice and security work. Yes, so what is the driver of insecurity? If you look at it, it's basically lack of access to justice. So if people are fighting over land, if there's conflict or intra-clan conflict, it's basically zeroes down to access to justice. So it's really important to have a link whereby the formal justice system and the informal justice system respond to the needs of the community, and access to this specifically to formal justice system is a major challenge in Somalia, and really the drivers of conflict really will still be a challenge in Somalia if this link between justice and security work is not addressed. So thank you very much, and we can take questions now.
Thank you so much, Diana, Mariam, and Amina, for this comprehensive picture about community structures, what it takes in terms of prerequisites, specific approaches, and how to capitalize on the said structures. I think most of the participants can relate to both approaches, but also challenges and opportunity. And this is why I would like to turn now to Megan Price, who will moderate the Q&A session. Megan, feel free to take it from here.
Great, thank you very much, Messina. And thank you, Amina, Miriam, and Diana, for the really rich presentation and the view that you've been able to give us, the insight you've been able to give us into the structures that you're working with in Somalia. I want to now open up towards the Q&A section. We're going to put some ground rules forward. There's about nearly 40 people in the room. So what I would like to ask you all to do is, if you have a question, please raise your hand. You can do that by opening up the participants list. At the bottom of your screen, there'll be a little couple people that says participants. Click that. It kicks out a sidebar to your participants. At the bottom of that sidebar on the left, you will see a little raised hand. If you click that, then you notify me that you would like to ask a question. And when I see that, I will call upon you and you can unmute yourself and then ask your question out loud. As Messina mentioned earlier, this session is being recorded. If you do not feel comfortable being captured in the recording, you can also send your question to me. My name is Megan Price. I'm at the host at the top of the list. You can send that to me in the chat privately. So open up your chat, find me there, and just send me a private question, and I can read that question out anonymously so that you're not going to be captured in the recording. Amina Ahmed, I see your hand first, unless that was just trying it out. Amina Ahmed, I would invite you to unmute yourself and ask your question if you wish.
Hi Megan, just to check I'm audible.
You are, but you might need to speak up a little bit.
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, so first of all, just to thank the presenters, very interesting presentation, and your work as well is also very interesting. The question I have is on this whole discussion was on conflict and gender sensitivity. In terms of inclusion, particularly of women and minorities, what has your experience of that been? And I'm particularly interested to know what challenges you encountered, because for those working in Somalia, we know it's not easy to work on inclusion, particularly in formal processes, which is, I think, what your project was focused on. That's it. Thank you.
Diana, were you able to understand the question fully? Okay, I'm going to take one more question as well, so that you guys can have an opportunity to prepare your responses. Ahmed Mohammed, I welcome you to the floor. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ahmed Abdi, and I would like to thank the team for the excellent presentation. My question is, since you are talking about GBV and also issues of conflict, and you were training some of the policemen, and I've been working with the GBV for so many years, and I know the major issue, I think the survivors are hesitant to report to a police station because of the threat they have, or because of them fearing for their lives. So what has been the change for the areas you have done the training for the police and also the community members?
Excellent. Two very concrete questions, and I'm going to turn over to our speakers. So how to work on gender inclusion in informal structures where there might be more resistance to that, and then what specific interventions helped you to reduce that social barrier between people who were afraid of the police and the police being able to reach out to the community. Diana, I see you, so that makes it easier to engage you, unless you think Miriam or Amina is better positioned to respond.
I'm happy to come in, but I will give the space to Amina and Mariam to come in on both, and if there's anything to add, I will at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. To respond to the two questions, basically, as I say, this is one of the most sensitive programs that we have done in Somalia. And considering the sensitivity, it took us a long process to ensure inclusion. We've spent almost a year to do the sensitization and buy-in at different levels. We've started the sensitization from the ministry to get the acceptance and the approval, and also community level sensitization for the inclusion of minorities, such as IDPs, youth, and women. It was really a long process, but it really helped us, the sensitization, and really taking long-term investments in capacity building, and also engaging different levels of decision makers. So for example, when we were developing the selection criteria, we have engaged the local administration, we've engaged the elders to really come up with the right selection criteria on who they think is the right person to be members of this group, with some form of guidance. And what we did was assessment, do assessment at community level, and then we used this assessment report which was validated at community level, that this is a true picture of the community, and this is how we expect the structures to respond to these needs. Really taking time to do proper need analysis, proper community level research, and also giving feedback to the community that this is the true picture of the community safety situation, and we like to establish a structure that is inclusive. Really helped us to overcome the barriers of inclusion. And I must say that it causes a lot of delay in the program, but it's worth taking that delay, because really rushing these structures can give you a premature structure which is just for the project life but not owned by the community. So really doing a lot of sensitization at different level. We have to appreciate the fact that getting buy-in at higher level is very important, but getting acceptance at community level is the key to success. The inclusion in terms of the police engagement and GBV, yes, it's a big issue, and really one of the barriers to access is basically lack of trust and fear from the communities. So having community structures that was acting as a link between the police and the community was very helpful. The community action forums, for example, there are about 120 in Baidaba, 100 in Mogadishu, and 100 in Kismayo. Really having this kind of community presence in each ward and each location, and that are engaging and reporting back to the police, and communities really using these structures to access the police has really helped us. And I must say also identifying the gaps within the police force. What is the gap within the police force is basically capacity. They may have the goodwill, but they may not have the right capacity. So help them in trainings, helping them, identify what is the issue. For example, if there's no female police officer and it's a barrier to the communities, doing advocacy to have female officers deployed and trained as front desk officers on GBV issues. So really trying to use different methodologies within community level, and also using these evidences to really bring change that is useful. A good example is how GBV reporting now in Watajir district, I'll talk about specific areas in Mogadishu, has now improved in terms of reporting. We are seeing increased reporting and referrals to the police than before. We started this program in 2017, and we did perception survey in 2019, and we have seen that this increased cases of referral through the CAFs, unlike before. Of course, this is not representative of the entire country, but it's an evidence that this pilot has given us an evidence on what should be done. Yeah.
Amina, did you have two additions?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add only the issue of reporting of sexual violence is very sensitive and also very difficult, especially the existing social norms, and also the perception of the community, and also the mistrust between the community and the police, and also access to justice, the difficulty of access to justice. Yes, I agree with you. But the issue was facilitated to increase the number of reporting, as Marian mentioned it. There is availability of different services, which is a very integrated services, of we just call it one-stop center or one-shop model that provide different services under one rooftop by using different approaches within communities, especially survivor-centered approach, as well as in parallel we have been working on awareness raising through the radio, through community capacity building, as well as community gathering. At the same time, there is the CAF has been providing different capacity building. The police also provide different capacity building, so that the number of reporting was increased. For example, if I give you one example, for example, this month of September, the Community Action Forum, especially in Mogadishu, they reported 21 cases of GBV. This you can see there is only one district. At the same time, the Community Action Forum are reporting these cases. The cases are not only sexual violence, but including domestic violence, denial of resources. All these are included with different types of GBV. Yeah, thank you, Ahmed.
Excellent. Thank you for those elaborations. I do believe that there's a follow-up from Amina Ahmed. Since I see no other hands, Amina, I'm going to let you speak once more.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. So my follow-up question is really tied to the first one. And I wanted the team maybe to give their insights on what it takes to get, real effective participation of women in this formal decision-making structures. And just to give a brief background of our experience as STROCRA in Somalia, for the past almost 2 decades, we've been working with district health boards, who are doing very much the oversight role, which the PAC and the council mentioned. They've had similar roles. So what does it take, to get women's effective participation, which is not tokenistic? Because it's one thing to have women in committees and say you have them there. It's really another thing to have a voice and really participate and have a stake, in the decision making. So that's the follow-up question.
If I repeat that, because I'm not sure if I heard it all.
Do you hear me? Hello?
Hussein, we do hear you. I'm going to ask you to mute yourself for just a second so that Diana can respond, and I will call on you next. Thanks.
Sorry, thank you, Hussein. Sorry for jumping in. Just two very quick things from me. One, to add to the excellent response my colleagues gave before around the issue of inclusion and informal structures. I think one thing that's really key to this model is the participatory analysis bit. So if you work with community structures and authorities, both formal and informal, so the elders, including the elders, and if there is a common understanding of how the true key drivers of conflict, so whether they are structural, like economic issues, systemic issues in the different institutions, as well as social norms, including gender norms, harmful masculinities, for example, or violent masculinities, that if there's an understanding that those are common causes of both issues affecting women and minorities, as well as conflict for the community and insecurity of the community, and there is an understanding that actually women's safety and security issues are community security issues, the buy-in comes in almost naturally, because you come with there's this process of awareness raising through doing analysis together that then just facilitates that buy-in much more. And then there is also a joint construction of what action plan they're going to put together to solve the problems they've identified. So different to other models I've worked with, where the team does the analysis and designs the intervention model. In this one, it is the team and the community structures we will be working with that do that analysis together. There's a lot of validation, and then there's a lot of joint participatory problem solving. And I think that helps a lot with that buy-in. I just wanted to add that. And Amina, on your second question, I think it was around women's meaningful participation. Is that right? I think so, because she cut off a little bit, so I didn't.
Yes. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure if it's the network. Yes, my last question, and I believe your project is very much tied to the UN Security Council 1325 on women's participation in formal peace processes. So my question was really on going beyond representation. Having women in committees and saying, there's gender inclusion. What are the contributions of these women? Are they having a voice and a stake in the decisions that are being made? Or are they just there for tokenistic purposes, which to say happens even in parliaments in developed countries? So for us, that's the challenge we've had for over 2 decades with community structures we worked with. Yeah,
I will let Mariam and Amina comment on that, how we've really tried to promote meaningful participation.
Yeah, thank you, Amina. I think that's a real challenge in our context, whereby we're just talking about numbers, and the challenge is how do we go beyond these numbers? And how we've seen this in this program is it's not about having 50 women sitting in a meeting, but women taking some responsibilities to influence and really ensure that peace and security is part of their daily business. So what we have seen is that within the CAFs and within the community structures and the police advisory committees, yes, they are members, but they have leadership roles, and they also have helped us really identify some of the issues in terms of GBV. For example, at community level, some in Mogadishu, for example, we had a case whereby cases were referred to women, and they took a position whereby this will not be solved through informal mechanism. It must go to the formal justice system. This was a GBV case whereby women within the structure said, if it's about SGBV, then it must go through the formal processes of referral, seeking medical care, and also through court processes. So we've seen them doing active engagement in really influencing how security needs within the community are responded to and how it is managed. And this is done through engagements and also strong capacity building for these structures, but also giving them space whereby they have leadership responsibilities and decision-making responsibilities. I don't know if my colleague Amina can explain further, but these are some of the practical examples we have seen in our work, but also in terms of land conflict management, whereby land ownership is a real issue. It's one thing to have the law and Islamic Sharia clearly explaining the inheritance rule, but also how it's applied at local context is a different case. As we can see women really speaking about these issues and preferring certain methodologies for resolving.
Before we give the floor to Hussein, because I know he has a question, just quickly for Amina Ahmed, if you go to that tool I shared, and this presentation will be shared, the Beyond consultations, very quickly, we conducted also 2 specific consultations with women and women's organizations in Somalia to really ensure that we were not just addressing the issues they raised, but also asking them about how to meaningfully engage with them. And out of those consultations, we produced, along with other partners, a tool for any organization and practitioner to conduct a meaningful consultation with women to ensure that we go beyond tokenistic and elitist representation. So I would encourage you to have a look at that because it's quite user-friendly and practitioner-oriented.
Thanks very much, Diana, also for the reference material. We are running a bit against our time right now, so I'm going to give those of you who are needing to move to other meetings the opportunity to graciously wave us adieu. You can just simply give your goodbyes in the chat. I will extend the conversation for another 5 minutes. We already have 2 questions in line, so I believe that will be ultimately what we have time for. But those of you presenters who are comfortable with sharing your contact details, feel free to put those in the chat so that those among the audience who didn't get to ask the question that they wanted to could maybe follow up later. First of all, I'd like to turn the floor to Hussein, who has been patiently waiting to ask his question. Hussein, welcome to the floor.
Thank you, Megan, for giving me this opportunity to ask or do comments on the presentation and generally the program. Firstly, I must say a big thank you to Mariam and Amina for the wonderful presentation. And secondly, from where I sit, I think when I read the concept paper and the discussion and the kind of presentation done, it touches the 3 outcomes of the program in terms of design. And from where I sit, I see it as a kind of a midterm review for you guys based on, you're doing the 3rd year now of the program. I want to run a few comments, maybe some of them impact and others process monitoring. I want to start with the CAFs and in terms of membership. But before that, the presentation done by Mariam and Amina was more qualitative than quantitative. I didn't see any figures, especially at the outcome level or the achievement, lessons learned were more qualitative. And I don't know whether this program design had the baseline data collected and vis-a-vis kind of a midterm review and a final study that should be conducted to get an understanding of the design of the program. So it was not clear in the presentation. And then secondly, the focus was more of women. And I want to start with CAFs now, the community action forums, the membership. Were they mainly focused on women, or it was a kind of a structure where we have both men and women? And considering the target locations, Bedawa, Kismayo, and Mogadishu, which is rich with IDPs, refugee returnees, and also host communities, both urban and rural communities. Were the membership part of this, or it's specifically an urban setup? Whether the IDPs and refugees, even if it was an urban setup, were inclusive of this membership? And considering the context where the program was implemented or is being implemented, considering also the security context in the country, particularly in those 3 regions, was there vetting and validation of the CAF membership done? And if yes, by who? Because we need to be very sensitive when we are working with communities. We need to scrutinize in a such context where security is an issue. And then, does the project had an investment plan? Because from the look of the project, it's more of a software program, a lot of trainings, a lot of community engagements, structure building. It's not hardware where you are working directly with community beneficiaries, households, I mean. So was there a physical investment in terms of offices or centers where these CAFs can sit outside police station or the security agencies, where public communities can report or even do referrals of cases of security and safety? And then the issue of threat analysis in terms of incidents of GBV mainly, if there was a baseline, we could have understand better if there was a baseline, and then this review could have also informed from your reports how were the incidences, of GBV, security issues that are really women, the 50, 3-4 decades ago, what women used to do, particularly in Somalia, is different now. Their role have totally changed. And they are the breadwinners. They are everything in the communities. An investment in the women's structure within the community is a well-designed thought program, a gray area, in my view, for designing programs and implementing it. But how we engage, how we focus, the issue of quantitative and qualitative analysis of results and processes is what is important, so that we can attribute this project in terms of change it has brought. And that will also inform us the sustainability. If tomorrow there is no phase 2 of this project, after the 5-year end, what will happen with CAFs? What will happen to the police accountability committees? And this is where I look from sustainability lens of programming. And in terms of the third outcome, the outcome that promotes systemic change, I could only see Southwest and Kismayo, which is in Jubaland. There's some sort of structures which have not been finalized in terms of the committees, the land committees, and the bill and the law in Southwest. What is happening also in Mogadishu? And finally, during the presentation, the presenters mentioned there are 3 local partners and Saferworld that is implementing the program at ground level. I could only see on the presentation SWC and Saferworld. What happened to IRFDO? Are they not part of this presentation? I didn't see their logo on the presentation PowerPoints. And I think, yeah, finally, final. I know time is not on our side. Going forward now, and now that you are somewhere 3 years down the line of the program, are there challenges other than what was mentioned? Because we could see with COVID, there were the incidences of GBV, more so gang rapes, emerging issues, some of the emerging issues in the society, you know, gang rapes, school children not going to school, you know, child marriages, pregnancies of the young girls has been rampant. We are doing a program of FGM and
Hussein, I'm sorry, I'm going to need you to wrap up your comments as we are already at our final time.
A program on FGM and early child marriages in Kismayo and Doble, and with the cases we're getting in terms of incidences, which is in line with this program, actions and activities and outcome, has been on the increasing end. So do we say that, especially in Kismayo where we had program, and this program was implemented, do we say that during the COVID time, the structures under these programs were somehow relaxed? Or were they, what were the reporting trends? Did you get more trends, more information on incidences compared to normal year before COVID? Thank you very much.
Okay, before our speakers respond, because I believe that that was more than you're going to be able to respond to in well, now the -1 minute that we're running on. So I'd also, because Hussein, you have such a rich amount of feedback and critique that I think is really valuable, I would strongly encourage you to find in the chat the contact details of the presenters, because I believe that you all collectively could have a much richer bilateral discussion than what we're going to be able to honor here in this collective conversation. So I would strongly encourage you to reach out directly to the presenters, because it sounds like you guys have a lot to be able to exchange and share. I'm going to give Diana and Miriam and Amina 1 minute to look to respond to anything in particular of Hussein's comments. I do have one other question that I would like to at least present to you, even if we don't have time to respond, but I want to make sure that it gets honored. So Diana, I'm going to give you the lead first.
Mariam, please go ahead.
Thank you, Diana. Yes, thank you, Kulmia, for your questions. Very interesting. Briefly, in terms of the focus and the membership of the CAFs, this program was basically focused on community level security, whereby women are included. So in terms of the membership, it's actually less than 50% women members, because in terms of the inclusion, we don't have to really achieve 50%, but if we get certain amount that is meaningfully engaged, it's useful. So far we have 57% of the membership are women. We have members from the IDPs, IDP communities, well represented, as well as youth. So it's not only focused on women, but basically community structure that is very inclusive. And we have a huge percentage of men as well in the structures. In terms of security context and how these structures were established and validated, yes, looking at the sensitivity issues and the kind of programs we implement, looking at community level security, establishing relationship with police, it's very sensitive, and we really took time to do validation, and these members are actually validated by very high level actors. For example, in Jubaland, the validation list was done by Jubaland Intelligence Services, whereby we clearly ensure that the membership does not include groups that are likely to cause any harm within the communities. So validation was done at community level, in public forums, as well as structures that are established in each state. In terms of the investment plan, if there's offices, there's structures established, this is very community level structure, whereby we encourage volunteerism and community ownership. And in terms of offices, we are using community centers to ensure that even after the exit, these community action forums can continue with their community engagements and meetings. So we are using community centers in areas that have big police stations. Some of the police stations have offered offices, and we are using existing structures at offices, so that when there's an exit, this is still owned by the community. In terms of sustainability, yes, there's strong coordination and engagement between the CAFs and district authorities and district commissioners. Even in we normally do bi-weekly meetings whereby the local administrations are invited and they engage with these structures. And in the local district authorities are also fully aware of the CAFs and really look up to them for support. So basically, I think those are the key areas I will focus on. The specific mail issues, if we don't have time, we can engage with Kulmia bilaterally.
Thank you, Mariam. Amina, do you have anything directly to add? I do have one more question I want to be able to address. So
just continue your question first.
Very good. Thank you very much. And once again, I would encourage you guys to be in touch directly with Hussein, because it sounds like there's quite a rich discussion to be had. My final question, actually, maybe I might revert to Miriam, because you referred to the participation of IDPs also in this in these structures. We have a question from Maimuna, who is specifically interested in the particular challenges faced by internally displaced populations and what strategies or interventions you guys have applied that help target the inclusion of these individuals specifically.
Yeah, thank you, Maimuna. Thank you, Megan. In terms of focus on IDPs, in Baidaba and Kismayo, for example, which is very clear where the IDPs are, we have CAFs that are 100% focusing on IDPs, CAF established for the IDPs, whereby they really, they're in the IDP camps, they engage the IDP communities, and in areas whereby the IDPs are part of the host communities, for example, in Mogadishu, it's really difficult to know where they come from. We have IDP communities included into the CAFs that are existing. For example, if it's 20 members of CAFs, at least 5 of them are from the IDP communities. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. That was a very succinct and useful response. Being very aware of the time, I want to draw everyone's attention to the chat. Many of you will have the opportunity to download the chat. It also contains a few more questions and a few more responses from our speakers. You'll also be able to find the speakers' contact details if you wish to further your conversation with them. With that, in the interest of time and out of respect for everyone who's been able to join us today, I'd like to now hand back to Messina for a final closing.
Thank you so much, Megan. I just want to thank you all for joining this conversation. The intention was really to draw from Saferworld Somalia experience on community structure in highly securitized environment to really dig deep and understand the extent to which those kind of structures can tackle root causes of conflict, which specific methodology to use or combine for ensuring both impact and sustainability, and how to practically capitalize on them to promote systemic change. And I think our speakers did a great job in sharing concrete insights on how to do that. I would like to thank them very much for their time for this webinar, but also for their commitment to the Addressing Root Causes Global Learning Initiative. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us today. Each of you brought specific expertise, and it has been really enriching to hear from you. I hope you've also enjoyed the conversation with each other. If there is any remaining question, do not hesitate to get back to reach out to us or the speakers. I believe you have our email contacts. Just very quickly, we would like to get your feedback on both format and content of this webinar. And I would like to ask you to respond to a very short post-event survey, which will be sent to you just after this webinar. And I just also want to flag that this presentation, the PowerPoint presentation used for this webinar, will be shared as well. Additionally, if you would like to co-host an event, a webinar as part of the Addressing Root Causes Global Learning Initiative or beyond, do not hesitate to reach out to the Knowledge Platform Secretariat. Again, thank you very much for your time today. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks all.